Hey guys, Alex from 7th Hour Films back again with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Last time around, we had Smack of Love and Revenge, Part 1. Where basically we got Hermes's backstory, why she's in Green Dolphin Street prison in the first place, which is the fact that her sister was basically murdered in gang violence. Hermes is out for revenge on Sports Maximum and his stand Limp Bizkit. So, yeah. And his stand can become a dead animal invisibly. I have to sneeze. Sorry, I'm allergic to bullshit. Anyway, I don't know. It does a thing, and it's bad. And now it's an invisible alligator, and Jolene and FF showed up to help. That's basically all you need to know. Yeah, so, like always, the reaction is down in the description and in the pinned comment for your viewing pleasure. So why don't we just go ahead and jump right into this episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Here we go. Alrighty, you know, there were some moments where I was still unsure of what was really going on. I think I got it. I mean, that was an episode of Part 1. Like, can we just face the facts that was an episode of Part 1, except instead of Jonathan Joestar, it was Hermes Costello. That was it, you know? And the difference between the episodes is just the difference of the two of them. You know, the difference of their personalities, basically. You know? Where Jonathan is always, you know, the great gentleman. Hermes, she's fucking out for blood. You know? Out for revenge. That was pretty good. And honestly, yeah, that was such an episode of Part 1, specifically. Like, just the gothic horror of it all. You know? And the fact that... So it's not just that it's like, oh, he reanimates, you know, he makes these, like, corpses, basically. It's like, no, he makes invisible zombies. Zombies, specifically. His stand can do that. You know? Something that used to be a power of the vampires, his stand has that. Which is why, like, when he reanimated the bird went after Hermes, like, so hard, because that wasn't just a bird. That was a zombie bird. And that's really interesting, actually. That's really interesting, you know? And that's why he was so, you know, bloodthirsty, literally bloodthirsty, was because he was a zombie. Man, we haven't seen that stuff in a long time. I mean, basically since Part 3, you know? Part 3 was the last time we saw vampires, you know? And honestly, I guess with that, like, I know, because, and a lot of people told me about this, and I do agree, it's like, this is definitely, you know, this is the direct sequel to Part 3, you know? And honestly, Part 4 and Part 5 are, like, unnecessary. Like, if you want to continue what Phantom Blood started, Part 4 and Part 5 are not that, you know? This is the continuation, you know? But I like that this is bringing things back around, you know? It really is bringing things back around, and just the quality of it, too, you know? And I know Part 1 is a little shaky, but just the quality of Part 2, honestly. Like, this is up there, you know? Man, oh man. So, it's just so... It's so damn good. Part 6 is so damn good, you know? It's like, he finally figured out, Araki finally figured out what he wanted to do, you know? And Part 5 was a good part, but it was very much an isolated thing, you know? But here, I mean, this is so good. And yeah, just bringing zombies back. His stand is zombies. He makes zombies. And that's the thing is, he drowned. He drowned in there, died, but his stand let him live on as an invisible zombie. Oh, boy. So yeah, so that was interesting. And yeah, like some of it, because some of this episode was I was kind of sitting here like, what the fuck is happening? So it's like, so that was just a drug. But I guess because his body, it was a corpse, is that it didn't work. I don't know. Like, that's one of those things where it's like, alright, that was a weird thing that happened anyway. But yeah. That was really good. That was really good. And see, this is kind of one of those things, too, where because we had such a cold turn away from part 2, where, we had the first 2 parts, it was all about Hamon, all about vampires and stuff like that, and to just hard turn away from it in part 3, where it's like, well, now it's stand users, and it's like, oh, okay. Like, this is kind of something I've wanted for a while, is like, why can't we have both? Why can't we still integrate things from part 1 and part 2 into these new stand battles, Because, yeah, it's like, okay, here is a stand user without any Hamon or any sunlight who just completely destroyed a zombie, And it's the same thing. Luckily, we did get just a bit of that with Jotaro versus Dio, because Dio is a vampire, And where previously it was, well, you have to, either sunlight or Hamon kills a vampire, nothing else. Jotaro was like, well, if I hit your head hard enough, that'll kill you. Alright, fair enough. If you completely destroy the head, then that will destroy that being. That's what happened with Dio, that's what's now happened with Sports Maximum, Oh, my nose. My nose is stuffy, sorry. So I like that, and that's the thing, it's like, well, when I talk about stuff like Hamon, like, man, why can't we still have, it doesn't have to be everybody, but why can't we still have just a little bit of Hamon, Like, Joseph in part 3, great, I wanted more. Why can't we still have some Hamon in these stories, Because even Hamon, it's like, oh, well, Hamon only works on, the undead. Tell that to the bird Joseph put in a girl's mouth, Tell that to the girl that Caesar put a Hamon spell on. Like, I want some of that, so I'm glad that we have even just a little bit. It's like, well, Sports Maximum, dumb as his name is, Sports Maximum, he became a zombie, Oh, it was so great. And just the fact, too, because it's really interesting getting that sort of gothic feel back in this episode, because that's very much what it was. It was part 1's gothic Victorian feel, Despite the fact that they're still in Green Dolphin, They're still in the prison. Like, they didn't leave the prison, but just the fact that they went to the cemetery in the prison itself, it's like, yeah, that was so good, so foreboding. It's just so nice, I love getting back to that style of imagery for JoJo, Like, this, honestly, it just was a huge callback for part 1, I feel like, On top of still being, a sort of typical JoJo stand battle, So that was really good, and that was a really damn good fight for Hermes, And I love the way she talks about revenge, Because she's absolutely right that there are people who will say, well, revenge won't bring your sister back, or you need to lead to forgiveness and stuff. And it is sort of the same thing of, like, it is sort of an interesting thing, because here's my thoughts on revenge. I am a believer in the Count of Monte Cristo. That entire story is revenge, you know? And I don't want to spoil it, really, like, too hard. If you haven't seen the Count of Monte Cristo, go read it. And if you think that any of the adaptations are good enough, none of them are. The anime, Gankutsuo, is the closest adaptation, but the ending is different. So, the book is your best bet. The book is your best bet on... And you can read an abridged version, that's fine. I read the abridged version. You don't need to read the unabridged version. You can if you want, but the book is the best way to get the story of the Count of Monte Cristo. And that whole thing, the whole book is about revenge, you know? And in the end, I'm not going to spoil everything, but in the end, it's like, oh, well, does he get, you know, everything back? No. Why would he, you know? And the movies always try to do that, where it's like, well, he got his revenge and he got everything back. And it's like, no. That's not the lesson. Because the lesson is, revenge will not give you back everything. But that doesn't mean it's wrong, per se. You know? Even though, and the book debates whether or not the Count is right in what he's doing, you know? And it can be open for debate, but at the same time, there's never a point where it's like, well, the Count of Monte Cristo, once he gets his revenge, everything will be, you know, hunky-dory. No, he still lost what he lost, you know? And the same thing goes for Hermes, where it's like, you know, no, she's not doing this to bring her sister back or anything. She's doing this to settle this part of her life, basically, you know? And I like how she says that, you know? I like how it's like, no, she has to do this. And it's the same thing of, you know, Sports Maximum is now getting revenge. Excuse me. My freaking nose is driving me insane. He's now getting revenge for Hermes killing him, you know? And it's whose revenge takes priority, and, well, it's whoever wins the fight, and Hermes won the fight. And it is sort of... They kind of bring this up also in Full Metal Alchemist towards the end, and I'm not going to go into that too much if you haven't seen it either. And I won't even say, like, who... I won't even bring up, like, which character it is. But they do bring up a thing of, like, well, if you give in to the revenge, you won't be yourself anymore. And I understand that. And to an extent, it's true. And to an extent, it definitely works in Full Metal Alchemist. But I just like how in this, it's like, no, let her get her revenge, you know? Let her get her revenge so she can be at peace, you know? And I don't know, I just really enjoy that. And then you throw in all the callbacks to part 1, and I'm a happy JoJo fan, you know? And yeah, using the stickers was great, and I love, too... I love, you know, when she takes the sticker, or when he takes the sticker off of her, you know, it puts her head back together, but it also brings back the part that he ate, you know? Like, that is really, really clever. And then she put a sticker on him. It's so interesting because I wasn't sure about this whole sticker thing at first, but again, Araki made this goofy little power work. But I like that she put a sticker on him to get another head. Took the sticker off, so now he's coming back to this head. So she just keeps hitting him away, and he keeps coming back, you know? That was really, really good. So, yeah, really, really amazing fight, and just a really, really great episode. Again, some moments where I'm like, alright, I'm not really sure what's going on. He tried to take a drug, and then shit poured out of his eyes. I don't get that, but other than that, it's just a minor thing, really. And then, probably the biggest upshot from all of this is FF is a healer, which, thank God, because we've been spoiled the past 2 parts of having a healer on the team, and so I'm glad that FF is now our healer. It's like, I feel like we need one, you know? But it makes me curious about this whole thing of Jolene being in solitary now, or super solitary, or whatever it is, because FF did seem to be right there, so wouldn't she have just healed Jolene and Hermes. Maybe she might have healed Jolene, but there must be some sort of a plan to it. And at the end there, Jolene has a purpose for being there. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. But yeah, really, really good stuff. Really, really love this episode. Honestly, it's almost a shame because it's like, if I were to give someone a JoJo watch order, it's like, all right, part 1 and part 2. And if you really, really enjoy that, you're going to love part 6. The problem is, you have to watch part 3 in between that. And maybe if you just give them, because part 3, there's a lot of stuff in part 3 where it's like, oh my god, I did not need to watch that, you know? And so, like, if you could, like, someone needs to do, like, a Cliff Notes version of part 3, basically, where it's like, okay, you get some stuff. Polnareff's revenge is really good. There's another character where, revenge was a good option for them. It didn't bring his sister back, but he got that revenge, and good on him. Some of that stuff, Anubis, Darby, Vanilla Ice, Dio, like, if you get the highlights of part 3, and then you go to part 6, that's probably, like, the greatest optimal viewing of JoJo. And then if you're satisfied with that, like, hey, I really enjoyed that, but now I want to move on to something else, you get part 4 and part 5, you get a slice of life anime, you get a mafia story, kind of get away from the more gothic elements of these 4 parts, but still good in their own right, to an extent, some characters notwithstanding. And then, yeah, that's kind of what I would do for a new JoJo viewer. It's like, like, save part 4 and part 5 maybe for later, If they're still into it, sure, go ahead. But I feel like you should keep that sort of momentum going from the end of part 3, specifically Jotaro versus Dio, keeping that momentum into this. So, now granted, I say that only 14 episodes into part 6. So I don't know, maybe I'll change my mind on that depending on future episodes. I don't know, maybe Giorno will show up. That'd be great. I would love if Giorno showed up, but yeah. Anywho, I probably talked long enough about how good this episode is, so yeah. That is basically it. With all that being said, I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and I will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist for all of my JoJo's Bizarre Adventure reactions, as well as another video you can go click on if you want. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.